Hi there and welcome to yet another video in the Python verse series. So today in this video we are going to talk about decision making. Decision making is something which is very fundamental to human beings as well as to the computer programs. So we always have to make some or the other decision. So here I have written one example, as you can see. So if the stock value, for example, is less than 7, then buy. Else if stock value is greater than or equal to 7 but less than 10, then hold, otherwise sell. And similarly we have to make so many decisions. Should I go for a meeting, should I go for something, some movie or something, or should I attend something else? A lot of decisions are there. There are like so many decisions we have to make that these days there are tools which are coming up just to basically help us or assist us in making those decisions. Similarly, some other examples are like if temperature is below 16 degree, then turn off the AC. So IoT allows these kinds of automated decisions which can actually control the physical devices based on certain decisions. Similarly, if water level, let's say in a tank, is below a certain threshold, then turn on the water supply. So I have given some very basic examples, but you can imagine, so like hundreds or thousands of decisions which we make every day. And what this video is about, well, we are going to learn how exactly Python thinks about decisions, how exactly we can program this thing in our code to make decisions based on certain conditions, right? Cool. Well, the Python control structure for decision making is the if-elif-else. Let me correct this. It's if-elif-else. So like we will see how exactly we can use this control structure in order to allow our program to make certain decisions. But before that, let's have a quick introduction to a block of code. What exactly is a block of code? Well, a block of code is basically a collection of statements which together accomplish certain tasks. For example, in C language or in Java, a block of code is usually enclosed inside of the curly brackets, right? So here I have given an example of a function in C where you have curly brackets. All the code is written in the main function, right? In Python we don't use brackets, we use indentation. Now so level 1, you don't need to have any indentation because that is the parent block. You can write statements without having any indentation. But as soon as you have to start a new block, or let's say you need to start a child block, which is very helpful when we are defining some control structures, because the code inside all the control structures is basically indented, and it has to be a block of code, right? Now notice the colon, we have to use the colon, and after that, like whenever I start a new block because of a control structure, I have to give 4 spaces. So as we can see here, this is line 1, line 2, that these are the statements of code. Then if I have to start another block, let's say if I have a control structure inside of a control structure, then I will have to use additional 4 spaces, and this keeps on going. All control structures in Python, they use blocks. So whenever you are using any control structure, so for example for decision making or for something like, let's say, repetition, we always have to use a block of code which has to be indented, which means 4 spaces need to be left before we start writing the code. So here is the example of the if-elif-else which we discussed above. So if condition, here comes the block of code, and this block of code, well, it has to be indented by 4 spaces, right? Similarly, elif, if there is any other condition, another block of code, else another block of code, right? Now it is completely okay if you have got just one condition. So for example, if let's say water level less than threshold, and we do something equivalent of turn on water, this is perfectly fine. You can have just one statement, that is not a problem. Similarly, you can have 2 as well. So for example, like this as well. So for example, a simple example is if let's say your number you're given some number, %2 equals 0, you can do print even, or else you can simply say print odd. Such conditions are also possible. Like, it's not that you always have to strictly follow this. If your task is being accomplished by, okay, let me write this again. If your task is accomplished by, let's say, one of these conditions, then you can skip writing the other two. Cool. Yes, so now with this if-elif-else, I really wanted to introduce certain operators as well. But before that, let's just look at an example of how exactly this thing works. We can write this simple code as well. So let's just go ahead and let me create a new file. Let me call it decisionmaking.py. So here, let's say user wants to check, read a number as an input from user, print whether the number is odd or even, right? So we are reading we are reading a number as an input from the user, and we have to print whether the number is odd or even. So which means we have to make a decision. We have to make a decision whether the number is odd or the number is even. So the very first thing is, let's say I'm saying user input equals input, please enter a number. This we have already done, so I'm adding a /n here. Cool. Now I have the user input, but as we know that user input is currently a string, so I'm converting it into an integer. I'm performing a typecast here. So if you are new to this, like if you have, let's say, directly jumped to this video, I highly recommend watching the previous videos, because that is where we have talked about things like what typecasting is, why I'm using this /n, and so on. Cool. So now I have n, which is numeric, that is an integer. Now what I need to do is I need to make a decision whether n is even or whether n is odd. So this is where my control structure, that is my if-elif-else, will come into picture. If n %2, we already know what percent means. So if n on dividing by 2 gives a remainder of 0, then I have to print you have entered an even number. Cool. Else, if it is not, then we have to print you have entered an odd number. Cool. So if it is divisible by 2, we have to say you have entered an even number, otherwise we have to say you have entered an odd number. So this is all this program is required to do. Okay, let me go ahead. So let me just execute this program, Python video 6, and then we have decision making. So let me enter something like, let's say 78, which we know is an even number. Now let's see what the program prints. You have entered an even number, right? Sorry for the interruption. Cool. And similarly, if I do Python video, let's say 6, I'm doing another dry run for this. This time let me just try by adding some odd number, right? So now it says you have entered an odd number. So in this way we can see that we are starting to make some decisions. Now well, as I mentioned, that this is a very simplistic example, and in the practical applications this can actually become nested. This can go crazy, really crazy, become very complex. We will see certain examples, we will see such examples as we go ahead, but for this video the idea was for you to start getting a taste of that how exactly we have to make the decisions. So just like in real life, we can think like this, that if this condition happens, then this is the action which I'm going to take. Else if this condition happens, then this is what my action is going to be. Similarly in programming also we can define. So it's exactly the same way. It's like we are writing English only, wherein if, and then we define the condition, and then we put in like the actionable. So here it was just to print out. In practical applications this actionable can be anything. We will come to those examples. like in the future videos. But for now, I hope you understood that how exactly we make decisions in Python. One of the control structures is if-elif-else. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the future video. Bye bye.